safety card in your seat pocket explains the safety features of this airplane, including
just got back from the States. I was in Maryland for a few days. One of my grandmas actually passed away. It was my dad's mom. So I have been blessed to have both of my grandmas in my life this entire time. But unfortunately, we had to say goodbye to my dad's mom. And so, yeah, as we were preparing for the funeral, my dad called me and he was like, "Yon commission pour?" And I was like, "What?" And he's like, your aunt just asked me if you can give the eulogy. And I was like, "What? Me?" Um, and I'm like, oh, I was so nervous because I cry very easily, especially if other people are crying like instantly. If somebody else is crying, I'm gonna cry. Like it's just instant. And I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it through. And he was like, girl, you better try. So I was like, okay, fine. And it was such an honor anyway. So I definitely wanted to capture her life in Haiti and her life in the States. When she was in Haiti, she was a micro entrepreneur. People here would call her a manasaga. And basically, she is one of the people that would move goods throughout the country. So go and get goods from the rural areas and go and sell them in, Port-au-Prince or whatever other city. And, Manasaga plays such an essential role in the Haitian economy back in the day and today. And so she started doing that when she was just 13 years old. Of course, she was born in 1939, so things were different back then. People got married earlier on. Like her sister got married at like 16. They used to love telling that story. And, I also wanted to talk about how she kept our culture alive because, when you leave your birth country and you go to the States, a lot of time you lose a lot of the practices, the traditions, and things like that because you're kind of getting more Americanized. But our grandparents, they are sticking to their roots. Like your parents might be doing a lot of American things, but trust me, your grandparents, they are like sticking to, what they knew back when they were in their home country. So she's definitely the reason why we can speak Creole fluently. Even though my dad used to speak Creole to me all the time, I used to respond to him in English for some reason. That's what I did, when I was a kid. And but for my grandma, I couldn't do that. So I was like forced to speak Creole, and that's how I was able to speak Creole fluently, and can speak it fluently today. And even all of the traditions, the natural remedies, the teas, like everything, like she taught us so much that we can pass down to our children. And so, castor oil, l'huile masquiti. I learned about the importance of l'huile masquiti from the time I was a kid because whenever we were sick, Haitians use it for everything. I'm like, dang, this thing is good for everything, for a headache, a cold, a fever. I'm like, oh my gosh, the flu. Like she would rub it in her hands to like heat it up a little bit and then like rub it on our body and stuff. She used to put it in our hair. And I used to get so mad because Louis Masquiti has a really strong scent. So when they put in your hair, it actually goes away. So it doesn't stay. But, back in the day, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, but yeah, castor oil, Louis Masquiti is so good. And we knew about that since we were a kid because of my grandma. So I definitely wanted to capture that in the eulogy because that's part of our identity, being able to know our culture and, learning different things about our culture, that makes us who we are. So I'm so happy that I was able to learn those things from her. My grandma was born in the West Department of Haiti in a town called Tomazo in 1939. She was one of 18 children, so you could only imagine how eventful her life was. She shared many stories about how she and her sisters navigated through life in Haiti. At that age, it was very common to start supporting your family at a young age. At just 13 years old, she became a micro-entrepreneur who contributed to the movement of goods within the country. She would sell produce, such as corn and coffee and beans. She bought them from the rural area, and then she would sell them in Port-au-Prince. It didn't take long before she mastered her craft. She knew exactly what to buy and where to buy it, and then she knew where these goods were in demand and had a great strategy to sell them. She became so successful that she was able to pay for an expensive trip to the US. In 1980, she left her children in Haiti and moved to the US. The first few years were very difficult for her. She worked 3 jobs in order to support her family back in Haiti and to also save enough money to bring them to Washington, D.C. It was such a priority for her that at one point, she washed the same outfit every night so that she did not have to spend money on buying clothes. My grandma was a hard worker and she was determined. A few years later, she saved enough money to bring 3 of her 4 children to the US because my father, Carlo, wasn't quite ready to leave Haiti yet. But in 1996, the family was reunited after she petitioned for both me and my father to immigrate to the US. She continued to work hard to provide a good life for herself and for her family. In 1999, she purchased a house in Silver Spring, Maryland, where we all lived, and she was able to maintain that house for the past 23 years. Growing up, when my cousins and I would wake up to get ready for school, she was already on her way to work. She had to take several buses to Washington, D.C. to get to her job. She got home about an hour after we got home from school. But despite having to work all day, she would cook an amazing Haitian meal that we all appreciated. She used to always call me to the kitchen to come and pile the épices. And it didn't matter what I was doing, I would have to stop to go and help her prepare it. And I'm definitely grateful for that because I was able to learn a lot in the kitchen while with her. My grandma kept our culture alive in many ways. Not only did she only cook Haitian food, but she is also the reason that my cousins and I can speak our native language, Creole, fluently. Although she could speak English, she refused to speak English in the house. So that forced us to have to speak Creole. She also taught us many natural remedies. Whenever we were sick, whether we had a cough, a cold, a fever, whatever it was, she would take real masquiti and she would rub on our chest and on our forehead. That is something that I do till this day. Because of my grandma, we know and we experience many of our cultural traditions. On January 1st, she always made a big pot of soup joumou, which is a Haitian Independence Day traditional dish. And all of her children and grandchildren would stop by the house to get their bowl of soup joumou. My grandma wanted everyone to eat. You could not go to her house without eating. One thing that I will always remember about my grandma is that she cared for the well-being of the family. If someone had a problem, she wanted to solve it. And if she could not solve it, Then she wasn't at ease until everything was okay. Over the past 5 years, I didn't get to see my grandma often because I moved back to Haiti. But every time I spoke to her, she said the exact same thing. Mwen priye pou chaque jour, oui, oui. I pray for you every single day. And I know that her prayers have kept me safe and have gotten me through many situations. Grandma, you will forever remain in our hearts. We are grateful to have had you as a grandma, as a mom, as an aunt, as a sister. Thank you for all the sacrifices that you made for our family. Thank you for everything that you taught us that we can pass down to our children and to our grandchildren. And thank you for loving us. Gun nous pas jamblio, reposez en paix. So y'all already know what time it is. My hair is tied up, so I'm about to cook. I'm making something so quick and easy today. Some bouillon, y'all. Haitian food takes a long time, but bouillon doesn't take too long. So that's what I'm making today. I usually just use whatever I have in the house. So if I have yum, tayo, which some people call malanga, pomme de terre, banane. If I have all, I'm gonna add all. If I have some, I'm gonna add whatever I have. Of course, you make some boy, which I think the other Caribbeans call it dumplings. And, you know, because we speak Creole, a lot of the other Caribbean countries, they speak English. So they will have like all the same words, and then we'll have like something completely different, but it's the same thing. And when I watch Jamaicans cook, like when they make soup, I'll see them add it. And I'm like, okay, we do the same thing. So yeah, so anyways, it's made with flour. So if I have flour downstairs, I'm gonna make it. If I don't, then I won't. But yeah, you also add some type of greens like spinach or watercress. You add some carrots as well, and then you know, goat or beef or both, whatever. Here in this house, we prefer goat, so usually I make bouillon with goat, and I always cook it separately from the bouillon, and I add it at the very end. But I always make sure to add the juices from the meat periodically to the bouillon so they could still be like very flavorful, but I cook them apart, because if you cook the meat in the bouillon, it's like a lot of water, and the meat isn't gonna have like a lot of flavor if you do it that way. So when you cook it separately and then you add it in the end, it's good. And then I don't know if other people do this, but I just add the juices from the meat into the bouillon periodically just to make sure it has a lot of flavor. And of course, when you add it at the end, you could let it simmer for a little bit and it'll be fine. But yes, so I'm about to get started. This is a quick Haitian dish. Thank God we have a few quick dishes. I mean, and it's not, when I say quick, I'm not talking about 30 minutes. I'm talking about like maybe 2 hours or I know y'all gonna be like, that's not quick, but compared to the other food, this is a quick dish, y'all. So yeah, it'll probably take like 2 hours in total to do everything. But yeah, I'm about to get started. Okay, so let me show you the meat. It is on low, and basically it's cooking down. So every time it's about to dry up, I add some water to it. There's some thyme and parsley wrapped together in there. There's also scotch bonnet pepper and some cloves. Always add hot water. So I boil the water in there and I just add in here every time it's about to dry up. Don't add cold water to it. Even though I cook the meat separately, I always try to get some of the sauce and add it to the bouillon just to keep it very flavorful. So I just randomly do it. After I add some water, let it cook down a little bit, then I add the sauce from here to the other pot. The bouillon is all done, very quick and easy to make. I didn't have any flour, so I couldn't add any boy. But yeah, so we have some potatoes, plantain, right here, some meat, Got the carrots, got the spinach, but no boy, but it's okay. And we have some fresh passion fruit juice. Sammy made it. And that's just to put the bones. And Sammy's is over there. So yeah, about to eat. Very quick and easy. So we just finished grocery shopping and we created a budget because this thing was getting out of control. We're trying to only spend 10,000 good per week at the grocery store and then buy other things that we need on the street because we want to have a more healthy lifestyle and eat more like organic, like fruits and stuff like that, instead of buying like a whole bunch of American snacks like chips and stuff like that. There are things, of course, that I will still have to buy at the grocery store, like coffee creamer, for instance. I cannot drink coffee, black, like how a lot of people here drink it. They just drink the coffee. Sometimes they'll add milk. I can't do that. I don't even like coffee. I literally only drink it to stay awake at my desk. If you know a way to naturally, or something that's better than coffee, to keep your energy up and, just to keep you going throughout the day, please let me know. Not something that you just saw on Google, something that you actually tried and, it works for you. Leave your comments down below because I need something else. I don't even like coffee. And getting the coffee creamer makes it better for me. Usually I get whipped cream and I get caramel, but I took both whipped cream and caramel out because the caramel is, how much is it? I don't know how much it is, but maybe it's like $15, like when you convert it. And then the whipped cream, it doesn't last too long. And I think that's like 700 and something good normally, the one that I get. I just get the essential brand because it's cheaper. But if I was in the States, I wouldn't even get that one. I would get like the regular brand. But because the essential one is cheaper, that's the one that I would get. But I took that out of my grocery list. And now I just get coffee creamer and I just add it to the coffee and that's it. And I'm only sleepy at my desk. Like as soon as I sit down, I go to my office, I sit down at my desk, I'm ready to go to sleep. But if I'm doing anything else, I'm perfectly fine. What is that about? If I'm cooking, if I'm cleaning, if I'm doing anything else, I'm good. But as soon as I sit down at that desk, I'm ready to go to sleep. So I need something else. But anyways, we're trying to have like a healthier lifestyle, trying to buy, more fruits and have those as our snacks. And that definitely cuts down our expenses at the grocery store. But today, I said 10,000 good, but that didn't happen. It was 14,443 good. Oui, nous besoin de citron. Give me.
That's when mami vote mana que estava dando mami.
Ao menos não vi provando.
Cliente doit passer bien sûr bien.
Oh.
Se mettre au vendre $50, au vendre $40.
$50 grain?
Même boire 3 pour 500.
Tá, $50 grain? E monta vai ver uns abos com $40 grain. Mas não pode ser legal. Mana lebe?
So now we are trying to buy some coconuts for the week. We just stopped somewhere, but the guy wasn't there. So now we are going to buy from another guy. I'm just gonna get some for the week. So maybe like at least maybe 10, 8 or 10. So we ended up getting 10 coconuts for the week, and the guy just cut off the bottoms just to make it easier for us. We have a machete here. We call it machete. We have one here, but when they do this, it just makes it a lot easier. Sammy got these from the yard yesterday for some passion fruit juice. So we call this ganatia, which is passion fruit. So the ones that are ready, we're gonna use today for our Sunday dinner. So I like to separate everything when I cook. This right here is for the rice. I'm making zikole. It's just some green seasoning, what we call épices, and some onions. So I put like half of an onion in there, so that's why it looks like this. Then this right here is also for the rice. We have some thyme and parsley, scotch bonnet pepper, and some cloves. Then both of these are for the sauce. I never use tomato paste for my sauce. I always use a fresh tomato. And then, of course, the onion that you add at the very end. So I'm actually making barbecue chicken, but I'm letting it cook over the stove first. I marinated it last night with some épices, green seasoning. And so, yeah, so I'm just letting it cook over the stove at first. And then I'm going to take it out and coat it with barbecue sauce and put it in the oven. I'm also making some fried plantain, so it's just soaking in some salt water. I actually made some pickles the other day. It's definitely better to make it a few days ahead of time. It just tastes better. But it's really simple. Some cabbage, some carrots. I put some shallot in there, scotch bonnet peppers, lime juice, salt. Very easy to make. And this is the épice that I made the other day. So I have 2 down here, and I also have 3. I have 3 in the freezer. Yeah, I don't play by my épices because I don't use other seasonings. So it's just épices for me and some cayenne pepper sometimes just for some color. I just added in the rice. As you can see, we have our scotch bonnet pepper with some cloves, parsley and thyme, and of course some coconut milk. And y'all, the coconut milk replaces the amount of water that you would put in. So don't put the amount of water that you would put plus coconut milk. It replaces it. So if you put a can of coconut milk, which is like 2 cups, that replaces 2 cups of water. Don't put water in addition to the coconut milk. Replace a certain amount of water with the coconut milk that you put in. So of course I cooked this over the stove first. So now I'm just coating it with the barbecue sauce. Sunday dinner is ready. We got some bun and pizza with some pickles, barbecue chicken, rice, and some sauce on the side. Same thing for Sam, except I always have to put extra pickles for him because that's how he likes it. So we have some fresh passion fruit juice, but Sammy's adding some babo mine. Okay, that's good, babe. That's enough. All right, Sunday dinner.